Shalom from Jerusalem. This is TV7's Israel at War update. And as we're set to deliberate a whole variety of issues from here in Israel to the surrounding area, it's important to note, as ever, that we mark today day 553 since October 7th of 2023, when the Islamist Hamas and its terror affiliates have committed the atrocities against the people of Israel, murdering some 1,200, mostly civilians, wounding over 4,800 others, and kidnapping approximately 250 people. 59 of them remain in Hamas captivity to date. Now, there is reported progress in talks with regard to a new Egyptian outline. We will discuss that and more, but first I'll introduce our panelists for today, starting from top left, Brigadier General in Reserve, Yaron Rosen, formerly the IDF's Chief of Cyber Staff, an Israel Air Force commander, as well as a helicopter fighter pilot. Next to him, Brigadier General in Reserve, Doron Gavish, the commander of the Israeli Air Force Task Force Foreign Missile Defense, formerly the commander of Israeli Air and Missile Defense. And last but not least, Brigadier General in Reserve, Relik Shafir, formerly an Israel Air Force commander, as well as a fighter pilot. And it's a pleasure to see all three of you. Reports are talking about breakthrough in negotiations. General Rosen, will start with you, naturally at a time of heightened tensions in the Gaza Strip, ongoing operations both north, center, and south of this Palestinian enclave. And while the Egyptians have established a new proposal, they have, yet to relay it to the Islamist Hamas, but nonetheless, there is some optimism here in Jerusalem as well as in Washington.
Yeah, we're hearing of supposedly some kind of breakthrough in the hostage talks, and it could pave the way for some kind of ceasefire. We don't know yet where this is going. We've heard these types of reports again and again. It's a very tough negotiations because we're negotiating with factions, and who knows exactly who we're negotiating with. Only the people negotiating know that, or the Egyptians trying to broker this. It's a very, very complicated situation. And the Israeli hostages, the ones that are alive, and of course the ones that we want to return, all of them, including the dead, back to their families, they really need to get home. I mean, this is something which is turning upside down everyone's stomach again, just right before Pesach, when we're celebrating freedom, our freedom. It is very hard to think about what these young men are going through, and hopefully this raises some hope for moving forward. It is very important to notice that while this is going on, the other shifts in the Middle East are also intensifying, whether it's with the Houthis in Yemen, and the talks in Oman with the Iranians. All these things are influencing each other. This is these huge tensions, strategic tensions, operational tensions. All these things together are putting all the actors in many dilemmas, and everyone is trying to sort of adapt to these tectonic shifts. Some of them will adapt, and some of them will be buried in the cracks between the tectonic plates. So this is a very, very complicated moment, definitely, and specifically in Gaza. Yes, this is something that we will need to monitor in the next 48 hours or so.
General Gavish, I'd like to hear from your take, since there is sporadic rocket fire, not on a daily basis, but nonetheless it does happen every other day, give or take. And therefore, to what degree is the IDF right now, not yet at its highest intensity, obviously, but able to continuing to eradicate the various terror infrastructure, various rocket and other type of munition stockpiles are still being located, but to what degree is this being effective?
Well, Jonathan, we could look at the beginning of this war, if we're talking for a second on the threat of rockets toward Israel. The beginning of the war, in one day, the Hamas shot 3,700 rockets toward Israel. This is not the situation today. This is because of the very effective job that was done by the IDF, mainly the Air Force. And as we always say, there are those four pillars of how to deal with rockets and missiles. And the first one is the attack operations, trying to do whatever you can to deny your enemy to shoot rockets toward Israel. But still, if we would, even if we would be fully controlling the Gaza Strip, at the end of the day, this is a very dense area, very challenging one. Terrorists are still there as long as they are in the Gaza Strip, and they will try to harm us. And this is something that I believe, unless this war would be finished and we'll decide together with, of course, our partners from the United States and our regional partners, what would be the day after, then probably it would be solved. So it is there. I'm not surprised that something is being shot toward Israel, but once again, the number is very short, and now the pressure is even bigger from the Israeli Air Force and the IDF overall. And those rockets, first of all, if something is being shot toward Israel immediately, is being punished, means that the site that the launch was done from is being attacked immediately, and we continuously are looking for those areas with potential rockets over there. But once again, it is not 100% hermetic from the defensive side, but not also not from the offensive side. The Hamas is not the same Hamas. Now they are really fighting like a hybrid terrorist organization. It's not a full organized military as it was. Sometimes it's even much more challenging, the fight, but the pressure is on.
Thank you, General Gavish. On the state of Hamas, I'd like to ask you, General Shafir, since Israel has been quite successful in its various operational activities. Nevertheless, it did not previously seize territories that has basically allowed this Islamist terrorist organization to reemerge time and again and recalibrate once the IDF troops departed from various territories. This is not the case this time around, and it seems to be quite effective.
Yes, the pressure on Hamas, the daily pressure and continuous pressure, including pushing some of the local inhabitants out of their quarters or small towns in order to clear the Hamas from there is effective on the one hand. On the other hand, as time progresses, Hamas becomes part and parcel of the population. So you can imagine some of their warriors or terrorists actually being at home with their family, hiding their weapons under their beds or inside buildings, and just moving around, not shooting, but planting IEDs here and there, landmines as much as they can. And the Israelis, us ourselves, were picking most of them through reconnaissance and other means and dismantling them. Ever since this operation began, we've had no loss of life, by the way. Treading very carefully into those zones. Our soldiers have gained a lot of experience in doing that. And so we try to reduce the number of collateral damage and are able to do so in spite of accidents here and there in quite an impressive manner. This puts a lot of pressure on Hamas, who cannot really launch any meaningful attacks and have to shoot out of hiding, more like I would say a criminal town rather than a full-blown terrorist organization as it has been. And as we can diminish more and more of this, it improves the chances that Hamas will come to terms as far as the hostages are concerned.
Well, that's what we're all are praying and hoping for, naturally. Let's shift gears northward. General Zen, when we're talking about the situation in Lebanon, the ceasefire seems to hold. The mechanism is relatively effective. The IDF is enforcing the ceasefire vigorously. But nonetheless, we are hearing voices now coming out of Hezbollah, including a member of parliament just the past 72 hours, stating that Hezbollah hopes to coordinate with the Lebanese authorities a new defensive strategy to confront Israel, since Israel, in its perspective, needs to be pushed out from the 5 points that it maintains in Lebanon, calling Israel, of course, the aggressor, irrespective of the facts on the ground and the historic facts that Hezbollah, without any provocation, launched an attack on Israel on October 8th in order to, of course, force Israel to split its forces between North and South following the atrocities of Hamas on October 7th. What should Israel's response be to this?
Yeah, I mentioned that we are in a sort of a strategic earthquake zone. So alliances, deterrence models, and doctrines are being drawn like in real time. So the region's old maps, some of them no longer apply. Every player is recalibrating, and this is fog. We're in deep fog and shifting power and purpose. So Hezbollah is looking for its new purpose. It's looking, southwards towards Israel and trying to sort of solidify the new narrative internally in Lebanon. I'm afraid that I don't see yet this new narrative playing very well internally in Lebanon. The Lebanese are trying to seize the moment. Now, we are yet to see if this will be a tipping point for Lebanon as a nation. If Hezbollah recalibrates and sort of succeeds in rallying around the flag, the narrative, its flag, the Lebanese narrative, we might see Lebanon going back to where it was. And that would be, of course, a bad thing. If we see a shift in the internal Lebanese narrative, namely the other parts of the other 2/3, if you will, of the Lebanese internal population, the other communities there, the Christians and others, we might see a potential to really stage Lebanon as the next forefront of change in the Middle East, namely working with Saudi Arabia, maybe helping Saudi Arabia also to change its narrative of how to move forward in this ever-changing playing field. So everything we're seeing, how Israel strikes in Lebanon, in Syria, what we're hearing from the Saudis, every strike, every negotiation, every oil price change is a part of a broader recalibration of, regional control and influence. And I think we're not seeing yet the new anchor. Like, what is the really strong thing that is going to happen? We're still seeing Turkey trying to put its foot in Syria, and Israel not letting Turkey do that through the attack of the air bases. So it's not direct confrontation, but it's clearly sending a very strategic message. Don't go in here. We do not want you inside this theater. It is too close to our zone. And again, this message also influences Lebanon. So Lebanon is sort of still in the middle of all of this, and we are yet to see where it will go as a nation in transformation.
General Gavish, I'd like to hear your take briefly on this, since I'd like to hear specifically on the arsenals or the capabilities of Hezbollah, since from what I can recall, roughly three-quarters of basically Hezbollah's strategic munitions, surface-to-surface capabilities have been eradicated in the war with Israel. To what degree does that impact its capacity to reflect power outwardly beyond the borders of Lebanon, since its militants are obviously still quite a sizable and war-capable group, but nonetheless, it doesn't have the tools anymore to really sustain a full-fledged operation?
Well, Jonathan, if we again compare the Hezbollah of 7th of October and Hezbollah of today, this is a completely different organization. The structure is a bit, or the way that it is mobilized, I would say, it's completely different from what we saw on the 7th of October, and also the arsenal is completely different. We're talking about 30% of what they had. This is what is left. This is the estimation number that is being around. So it means that they still have some capabilities, but it is not even close to what they had in the beginning. We have to remember that we were planning here in Israel 3 days without electricity, hundreds of people that would be armed, and thousands of rockets that would be shot daily. But after the 2 massive days of strikes by the Israeli Air Force, they couldn't do it even during the war and during the, I would say, hottest day of the last war. In their peak, they could shot toward Israel 350 rockets, and that was it, without really damaging severely almost nothing. In Israel, vast majority of what they've sent was intercepted. Others fell in open areas. They did do some damages, of course, but significantly different numbers from what we expected before the war. So this is, if we're talking about the rockets and this kind of means. We also have to remember that the Hezbollah was deployed on the northern border of Israel. Within the 10 kilometers from the Israeli border, they were there. They had their bunkers, they had their tunnels, everything was ready. The Rajuan force was basically ready to penetrate into Israel and to invade and to take cities and towns, and with thousands of soldiers that were deployed in this area. They're not there anymore. They've been pushed over the Litani River, which is much more than 10 kilometers from Israel. There is some Hezbollah people that are still over there, but once they are doing any military activities, Israel is basically enforcing the agreement that we had with Lebanon, and they are being struck by the Israeli Air Force. So completely different situation from their point of view. We also have to remember that they've been blocked also from the Syrian border, that they cannot really bring into Lebanon ammunition to rearm themselves because of the Israeli Air Force, but also because what happened in Syria, and the forces now that are in Syria are against the Iranians, and so this is also something which is being blocked. They are trying to do something from the Navy, from the naval routes now, but they are continuously being blocked. So from a military point of view, the Hezbollah is much more weaker than it was before, probably in its weakest point in the last 20 years.
Thank you, General Gavish. I'd like to point out that there are new routes that Hezbollah is utilizing for the purpose of transferring both munitions and finance from different locations. And on that, General Shafir, Turkey is apparently aware of Iranian activities of transferring finance, so funds for Hezbollah through its airports. It's not even turning a blind eye. It's allowing that to happen with understanding of this happening. Iraq, the central Baghdad government of Iraq, is also permitting Iran to exploit its territory. No surprise there. Libya and Sudan using munitions transfers from Libya and Sudan, which raises also questions: to what degree are the Russians involved in this?
Well, there are no vacuums in life, and certainly not militarily. Turkey is trying to bolster its position in Syria, being the actually the supporters of al-Julani, who's the current leader in Syria, and so they've moved their forces more to the northeast, where they had trouble with the Kurds, and they're trying to establish some control as far as Palmyra, which is in Hebrew Tadmor. There's a large base there called T4 where they're trying to gain control of. And this had been a friction and tension between Israel and Turkey, because Israel doesn't want Turkey to get anywhere close to the Golan area and allow any activities. And remember that al-Julani was basically an Al-Qaeda operator. So we're trying to push them as much as we can, and being helped by or mediated by the United States and Azerbaijan, who hold good relations with both sides. This will probably be a division of control between Turkey and Israel on some parts of Syria until some stability is introduced into the area. Whether the Turks are allowing the Hezbollah to get support from the Iranians, that is an interesting question, because Turkey and Iran are friends and foes at the same time. The Turks are Sunnis, basically, and the Iranians are Shia. There's always been tension between those countries, but it's not surprising that the Turks are trying to leverage in Lebanon as well, and put their hands into this mess. About Sudan, there are reports that Iran is trying to support the Sudanese. There are internal fights in there, and they're also a source of trouble in that part of the world. So Israel is very watchful as Iran is trying to maneuver and have as many playing cards towards the negotiations between the United States and them, and the threat that the United States is posing, as it will be using Israel as a proxy if the Iranians don't play the game the way the Americans want. So all these pressures that are being put in this area, and as Yaron, General Rosen, spoke about tectonic moves, certainly everybody feels that. And so far, Israel's had the upper hand in all areas of contention. The only active area now is Gaza, and that may also end in a while, as we see that some the talks are actually looking like they're leading to some kind of a resolution. So it's not going to be quiet at any time near, but I think the eruptions will be under the table or under the surface. Nobody wants to get hit directly, as the Hezbollah are being tormented now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few months, where the boiling pot will probably get to a hot point around June, which will be the end of the time allotted to the talks with Iran, and we'll see what happens then.
Absolutely. Well, we won't have time to discuss the Iranian talks, but they haven't yet happened. So let's find out after it actually happened what takes place. I will point out just a couple of things that you mentioned that I think that are very important. First of all, the matter of funds transiting through Turkey into Lebanon is a fact which I personally corroborated. So that does indeed take place. With regard to the Syrian front, naturally, the Turks are there, have been, as you mentioned, rivals of Iran in that sphere of influence, including in Iraq, by the way, where the Iranians have, of course, pointed to the Turkish involvement also on a number of occasions, which drew ultimately the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan to level also a concrete warning to the Iranians over their intentions for Syria, saying that just take the loss, in other words, and we'll keep it at that. But with regard to Sudan, we are having still a very significant fight between Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of the military council, and the actually established army, which is currently backed both by Egypt and Iran, which is quite interesting. The Iranians have been deploying there quite significant munitions, to include, of course, the Shahed 136, utilized by al-Burhan's forces against the rapid deployment forces of Hatemi and Hamiti, and Hamiti is backed, among others, by the Muslim Brotherhood and Turkey, and part of Jaish al-Watani that was basically utilized to conquer Damascus and Aleppo. They're also being utilized in Sudan, as is the rivalry between the Iranians and the Turks in Somalia and other places. So we're seeing this play out in many different countries, not only in Syria. But this is all the time we have for today. With that, I'd like to thank General Shafir, General Gavish, and General Rosen, and also point out that it is Passover holiday, so Chag Sameach to the three of you and to all of you at home as well. Happy Passover from us here at TV7. Until our next edition, from here in Jerusalem. Shalom. Israel has launched operations
on Vladimir Putin.
helping Iran develop. We have logic, we have rationale, we understand how the system operates.